Hello, and welcome to Book Summarist. Picture yourself in the bustling, sun-soaked streets of ancient Babylon, a city unlike any other. Sand-colored walls tower over narrow alleyways, golden domes glint under the blazing sun, and the air hums with the sound of merchants haggling over exotic spices, fine textiles, and glimmering jewels. This is not just a place of grandeur, but a cradle of wealth, wisdom, and commerce. Yet amid this splendor, not all are prosperous. Just like today, some thrive while others barely scrape by. George S. Clason invites us to step into this ancient world, where timeless financial wisdom is shared through captivating parables. The lessons within these stories are as relevant now as they were thousands of years ago, offering a blueprint for financial success that transcends time. As you journey through the tales of chariot builders, merchants, and wise men, you'll uncover secrets that can transform your relationship with money. Whether you're looking to escape debt, build wealth, or secure financial freedom, the ancient voices of Babylon will guide you. Now, let's walk together through the first chapter, where we meet two friends whose yearning for wealth sparks a journey of enlightenment. Chapter 1. The Man Who Desired Gold. In the heart of Babylon, Bansir sat on the low wall outside his humble home, staring at the half-built chariot before him. The tools lay scattered at his feet, untouched for hours. His muscular hands, calloused from years of labor, rested idly on his lap. Today, though the sun blazed overhead, Bansir was not working. A heavy burden weighed upon his mind, one that no hammer or chisel could fix. As he gazed at the dusty streets bustling with traders and craftsmen, a familiar figure approached. It was Kabi, the joyful musician whose songs often filled the city's evening air. But today, even Kabi's cheerful demeanor was dampened. "Bansir," Kabi called, his voice tinged with frustration. "Why do you sit idle when your chariot stands unfinished? I have seen you toil like no other man. Yet here you sit, brooding like one with a heavy heart." Bansir sighed deeply. "Kabi, though I have worked tirelessly for years, my purse is as empty as the desert wind. I see men clad in fine robes, their wives adorned with jewels. Yet here I am, unable to afford even a simple feast for my family. What is the purpose of such endless labor if it yields no reward?" Kabi's face grew solemn. "You are not alone, my friend. Though my songs bring joy to many, they fill my purse with little. I too dream of wealth, of living without worry. But alas, it seems only a fortunate few possess such treasures." The two friends sat in silence, their thoughts heavy with the weight of their desires. Finally, Bansir spoke with newfound determination. "We have labored like beasts yet remain poor. Surely there must be a way to gain gold and keep it. We must seek wisdom from one who knows the secrets of wealth." It was this simple conversation that sparked their journey toward financial enlightenment. Their yearning for a better life mirrored the silent longing of countless others who toiled without reaping the rewards of their labor. And so, they decided to seek the counsel of the richest man in Babylon, a man whose wisdom would change their lives forever. Chapter 2. The Richest Man in Babylon. Bansir and Kabi wasted no time. As the golden hues of dusk settled over Babylon, they made their way through the winding streets to the grand estate of Arkad, the wealthiest man in the city. Arkad's wealth was legendary. His estates were vast, his granaries overflowing, and his coffers brimming with gold. Yet what made Arkad truly remarkable was not just his fortune, but his reputation for generosity and wisdom. The gates to Arkad's estate were open to all who sought his counsel. Inside, the scent of freshly baked bread mingled with the sweet aroma of ripened dates. Servants moved gracefully, attending to the needs of guests who had gathered to hear the sage advice of Babylon's wealthiest man. Bansir and Kabi stood among the crowd, their hearts filled with both hope and trepidation. Arkad, an imposing yet warm figure with eyes that sparkled with intelligence, stood before them. "Why have you come to me, my friends?" he asked, his voice resonating with both kindness and authority. Bansir, emboldened by desperation, spoke up. We labor day and night, yet remain poor. We see others who live in comfort, their purses heavy with gold. We seek to understand the secret to wealth. How can we, too, find prosperity? A thoughtful smile spread across Arkad's face. You ask a wise question, and I commend you for seeking knowledge. I was not always wealthy. In my youth, I was much like you, filled with desire but lacking wisdom. But one day, I resolved to learn the laws of wealth, and it changed my life forever. The room fell silent as Arkad began his tale. He spoke of his early days as a humble scribe, barely able to afford the simplest of pleasures. Though he worked diligently, his purse remained empty, and frustration gnawed at his spirit. It was then that a fortuitous encounter with a wealthy moneylender named Algamish altered the course of his destiny. I asked Algamish the same question you have asked me, Arkad continued, and he shared with me the first great secret of wealth. A part of all you earn is yours to keep. At first I did not understand. Was not all that I earned already mine? The crowd leaned in, captivated by his words. But Algamish explained that most men spend all they earn and live with empty purses. To become wealthy, one must set aside at least a tenth of their earnings and never spend it. This simple principle was the foundation upon which I built my fortune. Bansir and Kabi exchanged astonished glances. The idea was so simple, yet it had never occurred to them. I followed Algamish's advice, Arkad said. Though it was difficult at first, I disciplined myself to save a portion of my earnings. Over time, my savings grew, and I learned to invest wisely. My gold began to work for me, multiplying like the flocks of a shepherd. Wealth, once elusive, became my faithful servant. As Arkad concluded his story, the crowd erupted in applause. Bansir and Kabi felt a surge of hope. For the first time, they understood that the path to wealth was not shrouded in mystery, but lay in simple, timeless principles. That evening, as they walked back through the moonlit streets of Babylon, Bansir turned to Kabi. We have been fools, he said, but no more. We will heed Arkad's wisdom and begin saving a part of all we earn. Kabi nodded resolutely. And we will seek more knowledge, for Arkad has shown us that wisdom is the key to prosperity. Their journey had only just begun, but already they felt the stirrings of a brighter future. Chapter 3: 7 Cures for a Lean Purse. News of Arkad's wisdom spread like wildfire throughout Babylon. Soon, the king himself summoned Arkad to the royal palace. Seated on a magnificent throne adorned with gold and precious gems, the king spoke with urgency. Our city is prosperous, yet too many of our citizens remain poor. This is a threat to the strength of Babylon itself. I charge you, Arkad, with teaching our people the secrets of wealth so that Babylon may thrive. Arkad, ever loyal to his city, agreed without hesitation. Days later, a large gathering assembled at the Great Hall of Learning. Merchants, artisans, farmers, and laborers all gathered, their faces alight with curiosity and hope. Arkad stood before them, his voice steady and commanding. I was once like you, he began, struggling to make ends meet. But through trial and error, I discovered 7 cures for a lean purse, cures that transform my life. If you heed these lessons, you too shall find prosperity. The crowd listened intently as Arkad unveiled the first cure. Start thy purse to fattening. A part of all you earn is yours to keep. Set aside at least 1/10 of your earnings, and you will see your purse grow heavier. Do not be tempted to spend this portion, for it is the seed from which your wealth shall sprout. A skeptical voice called out, but if we already struggle to meet our expenses, how can we possibly save 1/10? Arkad's expression remained calm. You must adjust your desires to fit within your income. Learn to distinguish between needs and wants. Only then will you find room to save. The crowd murmured in agreement, realizing the wisdom in his words. For the second cure, Arkad continued, control thy expenditures. Many believe that increased earnings will solve their financial woes, but they are mistaken. As income rises, so too do expenses if one is not vigilant. Guard against this folly. Budget your expenses wisely. A merchant nodded thoughtfully. I have often wondered why my coffers remain empty despite my flourishing trade. Perhaps I have been too indulgent with my profits. Arkad smiled. The third cure is to make thy gold multiply. Gold idly sitting in your purse is wasted. Invest it wisely so that it may work for you and produce offspring, just as flocks of sheep multiply under the care of a skilled shepherd. The crowd leaned forward, eager to hear more. Arkad's words were like precious jewels, each one gleaming with truth. The fourth cure, he said, is to guard thy treasures from loss. Seek wise counsel before making investments. Be wary of schemes that promise riches without effort. Remember, the inexperienced often lose their gold to folly. Nods of understanding rippled through the crowd. Many had learned this lesson the hard way. The fifth cure is to make of thy dwelling a profitable investment. Own thy home so that you may reduce living expenses and enjoy stability. The sixth cure is to ensure a future income. Set aside funds for old age and unforeseen circumstances, for none can predict the trials of life. Arkad paused, his gaze sweeping across the audience. And finally, the seventh cure, increase thy ability to earn. Cultivate your skills, seek knowledge, and never cease to improve yourself. By doing so, you shall command higher wages and greater respect. The hall erupted in applause. The people of Babylon, once resigned to their financial struggles, now felt empowered. Arkad's 7 cures were not just abstract principles but actionable steps that anyone could follow. That evening, as the crowd dispersed, many resolved to change their ways. They would save diligently, invest wisely, and seek continuous growth. Babylon was on the brink of transformation, thanks to the wisdom of one man who had unlocked the secrets to wealth. Chapter 4. The Tale of the Gold Lender of Babylon. The people of Babylon were abuzz with Arkad's teachings. His 7 cures had already transformed many lives, but there were still those who found themselves at the mercy of poor decisions and reckless investments. To address this, Arkad shared a story that would serve as a cautionary tale for all who sought to grow their wealth. One afternoon, Arkad gathered a group of eager listeners beneath the shade of a sprawling date palm. Among them was a young and ambitious merchant named Mathon, whose recent fortune had come from the sale of fine copper ornaments to the royal palace. Mathon's face was radiant with joy. I have earned 50 pieces of gold, Arkad. Never have I possessed such a sum. But now I am troubled, for my sister's husband has come to me, seeking a loan to start a trading venture. He promises great returns, yet I am unsure whether to trust him with my hard-earned gold. Arkad's expression grew serious. Mathon, you are wise to seek counsel. Gold is a precious servant, but a treacherous master if handled without caution. Let me tell you a story about my own folly when I was young and foolish. The crowd leaned in, captivated by Arkad's solemn tone. When I first began to save my gold, I was eager to see it grow. I met a brickmaker named Mathon, who spoke of a grand venture, purchasing rare jewels from distant lands. He assured me that we would sell them in Babylon for great profit. Blinded by greed, I entrusted him with my savings. Arkad paused, his eyes filled with the memory of that costly mistake. But Mathon was no jeweler. He knew as much about precious stones as a goat knows about weaving fine cloth. The jewels he purchased were worthless, and I lost my gold. It was a painful but valuable lesson. Never entrust your money to someone inexperienced in the trade you are investing in. Mathon's face grew pale. Then you advise me not to lend to my sister's husband? Arkad's voice was firm. I advise you to consider his experience. Is he skilled in the trade he wishes to pursue? Does he have a proven record of success? If not, you risk losing your gold. Instead, seek investments with those who are wise and knowledgeable. Let your gold be guided by wisdom, not sentiment. The young merchant nodded thoughtfully. I see now that love for my family should not blind me to folly. I will be prudent with my gold. The crowd murmured in agreement, grateful for the lesson. Arkad's story had once again illuminated a fundamental truth. Wealth grows only when entrusted to those who possess wisdom and expertise. As the gathering dispersed, Arkad's voice carried over the desert breeze. Remember this. Gold flees from the careless and foolish, but clings to the wise and patient. Guard it well, for it is a faithful servant when treated with respect. Rodden walked away with a newfound resolve, his 50 pieces of gold safely tucked away. He would not be swayed by promises of easy riches, but would seek wise investments that would secure his future. Chapter 5. The Luckiest Man in Babylon. As Arkad's reputation grew, people from all corners of Babylon sought his counsel. One day, a spirited debate broke out among the townspeople in the marketplace. A bold young man named Hayden argued passionately that luck was the true key to success. "Look around," he declared. "Those who are rich were simply in the right place at the right time. No amount of effort can guarantee such fortune." The crowd murmured in agreement, some nodding thoughtfully. However, an older merchant, his beard streaked with silver, shook his head. "You speak nonsense, boy. Wealth comes to those who earn it through diligence and wisdom, not chance." The disagreement soon reached Arkad, who was passing through the marketplace. Curious, he paused and listened to the debate. With a knowing smile, he stepped forward. "Perhaps I can settle this matter," he said, his voice cutting through the clamor. "Let me tell you a tale of what you call luck." The crowd gathered around eagerly as Arkad began his story. Many years ago, there was a farmer named Sheru who owned a modest plot of land near the Euphrates River. Sheru was a diligent man, rising with the sun to tend to his crops. One season, his harvest was plentiful, but rather than celebrate, he was filled with discontent. "I shall plant a different crop next season," Sheru declared. "Perhaps I will have greater luck with dates instead of barley." Ignoring the advice of seasoned farmers, Sheru uprooted his entire field and planted date palms. But the following year, a terrible drought swept through Babylon. While his neighbor's barley survived with little water, Sheru's young date palms withered and died. His farm was ruined, and he was left with nothing. The crowd listened in rapt silence. Desperate and bitter, Sheru wandered the streets of Babylon, cursing his misfortune. One day, he met an elderly farmer named Hiram, who was known for his bountiful harvests. Hiram took pity on Sheru and offered him a plot of fertile land on the condition that Sheru follow his instructions without question. Sheru agreed, and under Hiram's guidance, he planted barley and tended the fields diligently. Over time, the land flourished, and Sheru's fortunes were restored. When asked about his change in luck, Sheru smiled and said, "It was not luck that saved me, but wisdom and hard work." Arkad's gaze swept across the crowd. The lesson is clear. What many call luck is often the result of preparation and effort. Sheru's misfortune was not due to bad luck, but poor decisions. When he embraced wisdom and diligence, prosperity followed. Hayden, the young man who had championed luck, looked humbled. "So, you are saying that we make our own luck?" Arkad nodded. "Indeed. Luck is a capricious goddess who favors those who act. She will not bless the idle dreamer, but will smile upon the man who seizes opportunities and works hard to turn them into success." The marketplace buzzed with newfound understanding. People whispered to one another, vowing to seek wisdom and act boldly rather than wait for fortune to find them. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Hayden approached Arkad. "You have opened my eyes," he admitted. "I will no longer wait for luck, but will work to create it." Arkad placed a hand on the young man's shoulder. "You are wise to change your ways. Remember, fortune is a servant to the prepared and diligent." As Hayden walked away with renewed resolve, Arkad's words lingered in the air, a timeless reminder to all who sought prosperity. Chapter 6. The Walls of Babylon. As the years passed, Babylon's reputation as the wealthiest and most secure city in the ancient world grew. Its towering walls, thick and impenetrable, stood as a testament to the city's strength and resilience. Merchants from distant lands marveled at the city's splendor, but what they admired most was its unwavering sense of security. One fateful day, dark clouds gathered on the horizon. Messengers raced through the city, their voices filled with urgency. The Assyrian army marches toward Babylon. Their numbers are vast, and their weapons mighty. Panic spread like wildfire. Merchants hurried to secure their wares. Mothers clutched their children, and men gathered at the city's gates, their faces grim with fear. The air was thick with anxiety as the citizens of Babylon prepared for the worst. Amid the chaos, a calm and commanding voice rose above the din. It was Sharonada, the seasoned captain of the city guard. "Do not fear," he called out. "The walls of Babylon have stood for generations. They are strong enough to withstand any enemy. Trust in their strength, just as our forefathers did." The people hesitated, uncertain. "But what if the walls fall?" a frightened woman cried. Sharonada's gaze was steady. "The walls will not fall because they were built with foresight, diligence, and wisdom. Just as a man must fortify his purse against the uncertainties of life, so too must the city fortify itself against enemies. Our walls are our protection, just as wise financial habits protect us from hardship." The people took heart, emboldened by his words. They gathered their strength and manned the walls, ready to defend their city. For weeks, the Assyrian army laid siege to Babylon, but the city's defenses held firm. The walls, built with care and reinforced over time, proved impenetrable. The Assyrians, weary and defeated, eventually retreated. When peace was restored, the people of Babylon gathered in the city's central square to celebrate their triumph. Sharonada stood before them, his voice filled with pride. "Let this victory be a lesson to all. Just as the walls of Babylon protected us from our enemies, so too must you build strong defenses around your wealth. Save diligently, invest wisely, and protect your assets from loss. Only then will you find security and peace of mind." The crowd erupted in applause, their spirits lifted by the hard-won victory and the wisdom it had imparted. Later that evening, Arkad himself spoke to a group of young merchants who had gathered to seek his counsel. "Sharonada spoke true," Arkad said. "The walls of Babylon are a symbol of the financial walls each of us must build. Life is unpredictable, filled with dangers and uncertainties. But if you prepare wisely, you will weather any storm. Build your walls high and strong by following the principles we have learned. Save, invest, protect, and grow your wealth." The young merchants nodded solemnly, their minds alight with determination. They would not be caught unprepared by life's challenges. Just as Babylon's walls had safeguarded the city, their newfound financial wisdom would safeguard their futures. Chapter 7. The Clay Tablets from Babylon. The fame of Babylon's wealth and wisdom echoed far beyond its towering walls. Traders and scholars from distant lands sought its treasures, not just in gold and precious stones, but in the knowledge preserved by its wise citizens. Among the most valued artifacts were ancient clay tablets inscribed with stories and lessons on prosperity. These tablets, discovered by later generations, offered timeless guidance to those seeking financial wisdom. One such set of tablets contained the story of Dabasir, a camel trader whose journey from ruin to redemption was a testament to the power of discipline and determination. Arkad, ever eager to impart lessons through storytelling, gathered a group of young apprentices eager to learn the art of financial mastery. "Let me tell you the tale of Dabasir," Arkad began, his voice carrying the weight of generations past. He was not always a respected trader. In his youth, Dabasir lived recklessly, borrowing freely and squandering his fortune on frivolities. Though he earned a decent living, his debts mounted until he was known throughout Babylon as a man without honor. The apprentices exchanged concerned glances, for they had all seen men brought low by debts they could not repay. One day, Arkad continued, Dabasir's creditors gathered and demanded payment. He had none to offer. Disgraced and desperate, he fled Babylon, wandering aimlessly in the desert. Fortune, however, had not abandoned him. He was captured by a band of nomads and sold into slavery. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Slavery, one apprentice whispered in disbelief. Arkad nodded solemnly. Yes, but it was in the harsh sands of the desert that Dabasir found his salvation. His captors put him to work tending their camels, a task that demanded strength and resilience. One evening, as he gazed at the endless dunes, Dabasir made a vow. If he ever returned to Babylon, he would repay every coin he owed and live a life of honor. The apprentices leaned in, captivated by the story. Fate smiled upon Dabasir. Arkad continued. After many years, he gained the trust of his captors and was granted freedom. He returned to Babylon, hardened by his trials but filled with determination. Though his debts were great, he devised a plan. He visited each of his creditors and pledged to repay them in installments. Most laughed at his promise, for they had long given up hope. But Dabasir was steadfast. The apprentices listened intently, their admiration for Dabasir growing with each word. Dabasir's plan was simple yet powerful. Arkad explained. He divided his earnings into 3 parts. One for living expenses, one for debt repayment, and one for savings. Though it was difficult at first, he persisted. Over time, his debts diminished, and his purse grew heavy. True to his vow, he repaid every creditor and restored his honor. Arkad's gaze swept across the apprentices. The lesson is clear. No matter how dire your circumstances, discipline and a well-devised plan can lead to redemption. Dabasir's story teaches us that it is never too late to regain control of your finances and build a life of prosperity. The apprentices nodded solemnly, inspired by the tale. They resolved to embrace discipline and responsibility, knowing that even the most insurmountable challenges could be overcome with determination. As the gathering dispersed, Arkad's voice lingered in the air. Remember Dabasir's journey, for it is a beacon of hope for all who seek to rise from adversity. Chapter 8. The Wisdom of Mathon, the Gold Lender. The teachings of Arkad had spread far and wide across Babylon, inspiring many to seek a deeper understanding of wealth and financial mastery. Among those eager to impart their knowledge was Mathon, a wise and respected gold lender whose vaults overflowed with the treasures of Babylon's most prudent citizens. One day, a young and ambitious man named Banar approached Mathon. Clad in fine robes but with worry etched on his brow, Banar spoke urgently. Mathon, I seek your counsel. I have saved a modest sum and wish to invest it wisely. Many enticing opportunities present themselves, but I fear making a grave mistake. Mathon's eyes gleamed with understanding. You are wise to seek advice, he said, gesturing for Banar to follow him. Let me show you something that will help you understand the nature of gold and trust. The 2 men descended into Mathon's vault, where rows of chests brimming with gold and precious gems gleamed under the flickering light of oil lamps. Mathon opened one chest and retrieved a bundle of parchment. These, he said, are the pledges of those who have borrowed gold from me. Each tells a story of ambition, trust, and sometimes folly. Banar's curiosity was piqued. What lessons do these pledges hold? He asked. Mathon smiled. Let me tell you about 3 borrowers whose stories reveal the essence of wise lending and investment. He unrolled the first parchment. The first borrower was a merchant of spices. He sought gold to expand his trade routes and promised great returns. I lent him the gold because he was a seasoned trader with a reputation for honesty. True to his word, he repaid the loan with interest. This pledge was a wise investment, for it was based on sound judgment and trust in the merchant's expertise. Banar nodded thoughtfully. And the second? Mathon's expression darkened as he unrolled another parchment. The second borrower was a dreamer, filled with grand ideas but lacking experience. He spoke of a magnificent venture that would revolutionize Babylon. Against my better judgment, I lent him the gold, swayed by his passion. But dreams alone do not yield gold. He failed, and my gold was lost. Banar's face grew somber. And the third? Mathon's eyes softened as he unrolled the final parchment. The third borrower was a young farmer who wished to buy additional land. Though he had little experience, he was earnest and hardworking. I lent him the gold, but insisted he take counsel from a seasoned farmer. He followed this advice and prospered, repaying the loan in full. This taught me that gold is safest when entrusted to those willing to learn and seek wisdom. Banar absorbed the stories, his mind alight with understanding. So the key is to invest not only in ventures but in the people behind them. Precisely, Mathon agreed. Gold is a faithful servant when handled wisely, but a harsh master when entrusted to folly. Seek knowledge, trust experience, and always weigh the character of those with whom you deal. Only then will your gold work for you rather than vanish into the sands of Babylon. As Banar left the vault, his heart was filled with newfound resolve. He would not be seduced by empty promises but would seek wisdom and prudence in all his endeavors. That evening, Mathon's words echoed throughout the city, a beacon for all who sought prosperity. The people of Babylon, guided by the lessons of their wise men, grew ever more prosperous, their coffers filled not just with gold, but with the wealth of wisdom. Chapter 9. The Legacy of Wealth. As the years passed, Arkad's wisdom continued to shape the lives of the people of Babylon. Wealth flowed not only into the hands of the few, but also into the hearts of those willing to learn and grow. Yet, despite the prosperity that seemed to flourish in every corner of the city, Arkad began to see a problem arise. There were those who, having amassed wealth, neglected to teach their children the principles that had led them to such success. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Arkad gathered a group of young men and women, eager to pass on the knowledge that had made Babylon the beacon of wealth and wisdom. Among them was his own son, a young man named Alyas, who had been raised in the comforts of wealth but had yet to understand the true value of money. "My son," Arkad began, his voice carrying a weight of years and experience, "I have watched you grow in wealth, but I have also seen that you have not yet learned the lessons that wealth demands. You may inherit gold, but without wisdom, it will slip from your grasp like sand through your fingers." Alyas, though proud of his father's reputation, had never fully understood the depths of the teachings. "But father," he said, his tone defensive, "we are wealthy. Surely the wealth will last forever. Why must we concern ourselves with these principles when we already have all we need?" Arkad's gaze softened, and he beckoned Alyas to sit beside him. "Let me tell you a story," he said, his voice gentle but firm. "Many years ago, when I was but a boy, my father spoke to me of the importance of teaching our children the wisdom of wealth. He said, 'Arkad, wealth is not just to be accumulated, but to be shared, for it is not a gift but a responsibility. If you do not teach those who follow you how to manage and grow what you have, you will see it vanish before your eyes.'" Alyas, listening intently, could hear the seriousness in his father's tone. One day, a wealthy merchant came to Babylon. His name was Maris, and he was renowned for his riches. Yet, despite his wealth, he had no children to inherit it. As he grew older, Maris began to worry that his hard-earned fortune would be lost to those who did not understand its value. Arkad continued, his eyes fixed on the horizon as if he were reliving the past. Maris, in his wisdom, sought out the counsel of the city's elders, asking them how he could ensure his wealth would continue to benefit future generations. The elders advised him, teach them not only how to save and invest, but how to think, how to be wise in their choices, how to act with integrity. Alyas's brow furrowed. "But how did that help him, father?" Maris followed their advice, Arkad said. He set aside time each year to teach his children and his children's children, passing down his knowledge and wisdom. In this way, his wealth endured, but, more importantly, the lessons he shared allowed his descendants to build upon it, creating an empire of prosperity that lasted for generations. Arkad turned to Alyas. "You see, my son, wealth is not just a treasure for the fortunate few. It is a tool to enrich lives, to empower those who understand its true worth. You have inherited my fortune, but without understanding, it will be lost to you. You must learn, and you must teach, for the true value of wealth lies in its ability to uplift others, to create opportunities, and to secure a legacy that will endure. Alyas, for the first time, understood the depth of his father's words. I see now, Father. It is not enough to have wealth. I must share it, teach it, and build upon it. Arkad smiled, a deep sense of pride swelling in his chest. Yes, my son, the greatest wealth is not in the gold we accumulate, but in the wisdom we pass on. By teaching others, we create not just wealth, but a lasting legacy that will benefit all who follow. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Arkad and Alyas sat together, the weight of the lessons settling in their hearts. The city of Babylon continued to flourish, its walls standing as a testament not only to the wealth that had been amassed, but to the wisdom that had been passed from one generation to the next. And with that, Arkad's teachings, from the humble beginnings of his own journey to the wisdom he had shared with the people of Babylon, came full circle. As we reflect on these timeless lessons, we are reminded that wealth is not a destination, but a journey that requires patience, discipline, and wisdom. The lessons learned in Babylon are not bound by time or place, but are as relevant today as they were thousands of years ago. If you found these principles valuable, be sure to check out The Dip by Seth Godin for more insights on persistence, strategic quitting, and overcoming challenges in your pursuit of success. Thank you for joining this journey through the wisdom of Babylon. Stay tuned for more insightful lessons that can transform the way you approach wealth and success.